Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'd like to, at this time, call this meeting to order, and I would ask everyone if we could please rise and do the pledge of allegiance. I didn't know any better, I started getting a complex.
You all by yourself, you.
Something I said or did. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Curran.
Here.
Haddad.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Levy.
Present.
Seabury.
Here.
Stanley. Here. Taylor.
Here.
Kola. Hagershep. Callis. Cabo.
Present.
Sadi. Visconti. Wetmore.
Present.
Nero. Perkins.
Present.
Shanice.
Present.
Fratello.
Here.
Scozzafava.
Here.
Keishel. Present.
Would the record reflect 15 members present, 5 members absent, being Mr. Kola, who is out of town on business, Mr. Nagasheth, who is working this evening, Mr. Hallis, who I believe is still working, and Mr. Nero is health reasons, Mr. Sadi? Family obligation, okay. Am I right on that count?
One more. One more. This is one.
I'm sorry? Yeah, and then we have the vacancy of the vacancy in Wood too, Mr. Trimble. Okay. Official notice for tonight's meeting, reading to the record. Notice is hereby given that the City Council, the City of Danbury, will hold public hearings at which parties and interested citizens will have an opportunity to be heard in relation to the following, copies of which are on file in the Legislative Assistance Office for public inspection. Item number 1, government entities, Code of Ordinance, Section 2-176. Number 1, Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Number 2, Danbury Aquifer Protection Agency. Number 3, Fair Rent Commission. Number 4, Board of Ethics. Number 5, Charles Ives Authority for the Performing Arts. And item number 2 on tonight's public hearing is downtown deferral of assessments, Code of Ordinance, Section 18-25, the downtown revitalization zone. And item number 3 is sale of property, 13 acres, Old Ridgeberry Road. Said public hearing will be held on Monday, the 27th of February, 2012 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, City Hall, 155 Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut, 06810. And that's attested by Gene Talley, legislative assistant. For the members of the council and public, the council will be meeting immediately after for committee of the whole for item number 1 and item number 2. Number 3 will be taken up in the special meeting immediately following the public hearing. Here tonight to hear the public's opinion on the items that are before us. We don't answer questions generally in the public speaking section. We're here to listen. However, if you have questions, I'm sure one of the members of the body will write them down and ask them over to the staff or the pertinent people during the committee of the whole. So we'll start right out. And does anyone like to speak on item number 1, government entities? Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on government entities? Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on government entities? Seeing none, we'll close item number 1. We go to item number 2, downtown deferral of assessments, Code of Ordinance, Section 18-25. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the council on item number 2? Michelle?
Can I pull this over there?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Main Street Renaissance Task Force, in their report entitled Downtown Danbury Issues and Recommendations, this one which you're all familiar with, recommended a public incentive package designed to, quote, send a clear message from the city to potential developers that downtown Danbury is the most hospitable environment in the city to do business. The package included recommended zoning amendments, financial assistance, improvements to the permit process, and fee reductions in the downtown revitalization zone. The report cautioned that incentives offered as part of the revitalization package must be limited to the DRZ so that their ability to act as inducements for downtown investment will not be compromised. The downtown revitalization zone, as mapped, encompasses the core of the central business district of the city. It's a walkable area exemplified by concentrated development, historic buildings, and a diversity of uses, including retail stores and services, offices, banks, churches, restaurants and entertainment, public facilities, and housing. The study area also serves as the primary venue for community activities, including the summer concert series, Taste of Greater Danbury, numerous parades, and other festivities. Now, first let me review what we've already done in terms of our package of incentives and what remains. You have, I should say, reduced sewer and water connection fees in the DRC. We reduced zoning and subdivision fees by half. And we also approved back in May a series of zoning amendments in the downtown dealing with area and bulk requirements, housing uses in the central business district, first floor residential, and parking. We've also recommended that all sidewalks in the DRZ be maintained, repaired, and replaced by the city, although abutting property owners would be responsible for keeping them clean, safe, and unobstructed at all times. We instituted a top-of-the-pile program in which when applications come in for development downtown, they go to the top of the pile. They get top priority rather than at the bottom and slowly work their way out. And we also we're working on now other reductions in fees, permit fees by 50% for building permits, health and housing, selected health and housing fees, fire marshal fees, engineering fees, and sewer and water permit application fees. Let me just briefly then go over the amendments to the deferral of assessment increases in the downtown. The major component of this whole package, and I would suggest the major component for land uses in the DRC, dealt with the deferral of assessment increases. These included were allowed recreation facilities and transportation facilities. I want to note that the number of uses and the kinds of uses that we would allow the deferral to work for is limited by what's allowed in the Connecticut General Statutes. So we can't broaden it beyond. Let me go over a couple of them. There we have a number of minor changes, but the major ones. First, the uses, as I mentioned, would include, again, offices, retail stores, permanent residential development, information technology, recreational facilities, and transportation facilities. We did not include some of the things that are allowed in the CGS, either because they're not permitted in our zoning, or because they simply did not make sense. They allow, for example, parking for mass transit facilities. Well, mass transit facilities are public facilities, and you don't tax them anyway, so we didn't include that. And some uses which were eligible in the DRC, they're not allowed or eligible for a deferral elsewhere. This includes retail and information technology. Why not retail? We don't really have to provide inducements for retail development in Danbury. We really don't. And this is not a giveaway from me. The reason you give deferrals, two reasons, and only two. One, you're trying to get a kind of use to come to your city that you haven't had any luck in attracting in the past. That's number one. And two, you want to spur development in a certain area where you've been having problems in gaining additional development. That's what we're talking about here tonight. We also require site plans to come in up front, which is going to give you not just a footprint, but also can show you the facades of the buildings that they're proposing. Why is that? That is so you know that you're not voting to give a tax deferral for schlock development. Simple as that. You know what you're going to get. Okay. You can also have, it also gives you the authority that you may require, not required to, but you may require construction or renovation of non-historic buildings in the Main Street Historic District, may require that they comply with contextual design guidelines in our plan of conservation and development. Because we see that as very important because obviously historic buildings are a major asset to our downtown. And then we have other provisions dealing with existing historic buildings, but that's not part of this. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. John. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the council? Number two? Mr. Wright?
Me back over here. I think it's fun just to move.
You just don't want to be in the camera.
Oh, the camera's over there, no, I have a bald spot. I'm Bob Ryan, I'm the property owner of 261 Main Street, 2D Ive Street, and 5 Ive Street, also chairman of City Center Danbury. Come to speak in support of item number 2. We've seen great development all over Danbury, Federal Road, anywhere you look except for downtown. And what Dennis has proposed is to widen the use allowed to try and spur development and create some sort of economic push within the city. And we need your help to be able to do this. It's more costly to develop in downtown, and it's very hard to attract people to downtown. I mean, I've been in business downtown for 20 years. It's a struggle. It's always been a struggle. And we need to find a way to attract other types of businesses and industries downtown so we can get some development that'll bring more people downtown. And that's what the name of the game is. We need to bring more people downtown. So you're not giving away the bank here because the basis of the tax property is already there. It's only what they build upon top of that, which will generate future tax revenue down the road. It'll also give us something proud to say about it.
member of the public wish to address the council on item number 2? Any other member of the public wish to address the council on item number 2? Any other member of the public wish to address the council on item number 2? Close that, move on to number 3. Item number 3 is the sale of 15 acres on Old Newbury Road. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on item number 3? Any member of the public? Start back on the right, and then Mr. Rizzo. No, Mr. Rizzo, come on.
Move back to your spot. You can choose your spot.
Stay in your place.
No balls must.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony M. Rizzo, Senior, living in Danbury, and our organization is based on 64 Triangle Street in Danbury. I am not here to oppose the sale of the properties, for I believe that our city has a number of properties and buildings, for that matter, that should truly consider to dispose of or sell. I'm here because this great city of ours, from the day that I was delivered to Danbury, that I got off the boat, has given me more than I could ever imagine. And as with the rest of you, wants to do my part to make it better. Furthermore, I have a passion and much concern for our downtown community. And what a coincidence that I see Dennis and Tom here make comments on another issue. I am truly not informed about whatever the project may be for, that would go on this property. If this was a private owner to private developer transaction, I would not be here. Whether I like a project or not, I am not one interested, and I am not known as one interested in stopping any project, or quite frankly, putting the screws to it. My personal hope and vision has never been one to just do something for the moment, to do something for a year or two. I tend to look, as many of you know me, I tend to look through the tunnel and envision what's on the other side of the mountain. Look, hope and wish to do everything possible to leave our city, this blessed land, for that matter, a bit better than we found it. I have no doubt that every one of you, including and especially our honorable mayor, feels the same way. Not just this evening, but for years. I have shared with many of you the vision that I have for our city. Our city has a modern train station that continues to be upgraded. It has an ice arena, sports complex, that is starting to take off. Our local university has a downtown campus. Local banks, the legal and financial profession, and other professions have made a major commitment to our downtown. What is missing, and this is part of the vision that I've shared with many for many years now, is a mini hotel suite in a true downtown theater. When our great state decided to pump over $100 million at the Western Connecticut University West Side campus that is under construction as we speak, it was and continues to be appreciated. But the people that will attend those functions on the west side or in any other areas in the outskirts of Danbury, let's be honest about it and truly be realistic. They're not going to come downtown to support the local restaurants that I know firsthand as they open up, they're ready to close only a few months afterwards, or the local retailers. Well, we'll support downtown and downtown businesses will be the people that can get off the train or the people that can drive to our downtowns, park in our modern parking garages, go to the hockey game, or visit their son or daughter at their downtown campus, go to a local theater, have dinner before they go to rest in a local downtown hotel. Recently, all of you participated in the sale of the old police station. I believe it was properly planned, properly communicated, and truly, no offense to anyone. We are business people, we are developers, we are builders, we are investors. But you know that that transaction will benefit our city not only for just a year or two, it will benefit our city and our community for years to come. As you make your decision this evening, or whenever you're going to make it, I pray that God will give you the courage, the will, and the wisdom to keep this downtown patient in mind. And if the sale of this property is for a purpose that will truly benefit not only the outskirts, but the downtown patient that needs tremendous attention. It's so close. And yet, every time it gets 2 steps forward, we put another nail in the coffin and take another step back. So I pray and hope that you will keep these things in mind. And if that works, then certainly you have my blessing. God bless you all, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any other member of the public? Mrs. Caversham?
Lynn Chaversack, Hagerstown Road. Good evening. I'm glad to follow Mr. Rizzo. I think we agree on this. Going forward with the sale of this 13 acres is a stake in the heart of downtown. And I think we've gone through task forces and all manner of studies, and now we have a partnership. And this is where we need to have Mr. Foley come with his project to our downtown. There's another reason too. 25 years ago, the city of Danbury embarked on a very ambitious school building program. They built Danbury High School and 4 elementary schools 25 years ago. That 13 acres is a wonderful location for the 3rd middle school that the city of Danbury needs. We need to look through the mountain, through the tunnel, and see that there are future needs that we need to satisfy with this land. And once it's sold, it's gone. The other thing that bothers me about this sale is that it is to account for a hole in the current budget. So you're selling an asset to finance city government for this year. Last year, you sold the police station to fill a gap in the budget. And it makes me wonder as a citizen whether we're going to sell Hatters Park or Kenosha Avenue next year to fill holes in the budget. I think the council needs to ask the mayor to bring them a budget that isn't filled by selling assets that the city may use for really legitimate public purposes.
Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. Mrs. Reynolds?
I have to ask everybody to bear with me. I'm not a very good speaker. I get terrified every time I come up here. I came for years up until this past few years because I haven't gotten along too good with the Environmental Impact Commission. Whenever I go, I get insulted. I'm told, I hope you have something new to say. Things like that. I don't come anymore. And I hope you'll bear with me. I did make a few notes. It looks like a lot, you know. I am against the 13 acres being sold, terribly against it. The reason being is Danbury is in like a losing side in a great war in the Mill Plain area, Bacchus Avenue, Myrie Brook, Kenosha, Briar Ridge, Old Ridge Ferry Road, Driftway Road, Joe's Hill, and the condos at Larson, Prindle Lane. I could go on and on. I have listened to attorneys for developers refer to developing these properties as never having little or no impact on wildlife, or that there were no endangered species. That's why I'm so against the 13 acres. We have 13 acres that was given to us as a gift. When the reserve was gone through the process of being approved, they gave us 13 acres. All right, I even thought, well, or an acre for the boys that like to rollerblade. I just passed street, weaving in and out of traffic on West Street just now. And all an acre dog park, but leave all the rest open. You know what's happening up there now. Toll Brothers has been blasting. I mean, blasting is terrible, terrible for the animals. This is another thing. I read in the paper back in June 26th of 2011. Reserved is a massive tract of land off Old Ridgeberry Road. Toll Brothers, a national builder of luxury home, owns 300 acres at the reserve. Whatever happened to the acres that I heard at one meeting when it was the reserve? It was supposed to be put aside for open space. 4 months ago, which was before June 26th, another company, Building and Land Technology, submitted plans to the city to construct 470 condos. They would go in 5 buildings on 35 acres with a clubhouse. Not everybody likes seeing new housing sprout up because that leads inevitably to more traffic and a need for more public services. False hopes for the lives of our wild creatures and for those that stop on their migrations in the Mill Plain area, Danbury is gone because of our indifference to their right to share with us a part of our natural world. Danbury is engaged in a massive assault on the environment in Mill Plain and elsewhere. We are speeding along on the superhighway with a velocity that now seems to guide our destiny. Nothing must get in the way of progress. I do not say this is wrong. What is wrong is that in proceeding towards a massive development, we have become indifferent to the needs of wild creatures and their right to even a small part of our earth. We see the numerous incidental victims of our philosophy every day in the numbers of small bodies strewn along our highways, killed trying to cross from one side to the other, victims of their last wild places having been taken from them. Those not killed on the road end up as nuisance wildlife and are trapped and killed. How can we not think of them as individual lives who love life and ask only for compassion to go about their busy life? The Salt Mill Plan was changed to humane understanding by developers to share with nature. Whether we know it or not, by destroying and inflicting misery on our wild creatures, we undermine our psychological and even spiritual well-being. We are all intertwined in the web of life. I firmly believe that the damage we do to our natural world and its systems and the suffering we cause animals will someday come back to diminish our own existence. If not in our lifetime, those yet unborn will suffer. Nature is so despoiled on the west side that there's almost nothing left for our wild world. Danbury's last remaining wild places are making their last stand against development. Over the years, rules made for developers to follow to protect wetlands are broken. How many times do we read where hundreds of trees are taken down in a day without approval, and the attorney for the client gives excuses why they had every right to do so? Entire habitats are laid bare without permission, and developers or owners are given a slap on the hand after it is done. In 1989, Stu Leonards agreed to leave the area in the rear of their store in the federal road as natural state because of its importance as a floodplain and a habitat, in return for their approval to fill in 2.5 acres of wetlands. 4 years later, in April, they broke their promise and the river habitat became a silent requiem to those creatures whose life depended on dead trees, yes, dead trees, live trees, vegetation. That life-supporting environment was completely wiped out. Close to 100 trees on the floodplain and the river banks were destroyed. By word of mouth from Mr. Massoud of the commission, Leonards cut loose and destroyed the habitat, taking away food and covering for homes for those poor wild birds and creatures. Not to mention the aquatic life that suffered because the trees shading the river no longer were there to protect them. In July of the same year, the commission was concerned because Stu Leonards continuously mowed the field behind the building when he was told not to. A lot of people don't know this, but when trees come down in massive amounts, migrating birds always return to the same familiar area. Only flood, fire, or massive clearings separate them from their homes. And interestingly enough about wild birds is the fact that within their habitat there is an invisible boundary they do not pass, which might take them into a neighboring habitat. The devotion to a piece of ground is probably more intense in birds than other animals. It aids in finding mates and setting up their homes. They are prisoners of the land they maintain, and when a massive obliteration of their habitat, like developers happen, they starve, they fight, and they die. In 1990, an article in 1989, Largo Associates at Greenwich leveled overnight to Barren Earth 11 acres of land habitat at Lake Kenosha at the start of winter, leaving wild animals without food or cover. That's why we must keep the 13 acres. Many ended up roaming the yards of Lake Kenosha residents. Many of the displaced and starving animals starved or died under the wheels of cars. The late Janet Gershwin and Joyce Snyder put out food every day. Many people were putting food out for months after that. I went up one day with several bags of corn and found, it was horrible, underneath some huge piles of dirt that the bulldozers went in, for the bodies, half of the bodies of these poor little, what do you call them? They're long in the tail, you know what I mean? Long noses in the tail. I see so many every day. Possums. That's half of their bodies were laying out. They were caught in the terrible, no warning whatsoever. They were taken overnight, hundreds and hundreds of trees. Largo's insensitivity and arrogance merited attention, but nothing ever happened. It should be clear that we should have no place in Danbury for developers who are not kind and sincere and interested in at least being humane to animals. In 1995, I just got to tell you about Stu Leonard. In 1990, Mayor Iroquois said, after the destruction of the 11 acres of Kenosha, what we need is a regulation that is sensitive to wildlife. We want developers to be aware of the wildlife so the impact is mitigated. He was to meet on February 20th, 1990 with Dennis Elburn to discuss the regulations. That meeting never took place. Just want to have it right with you. Something is fatally lacking when men in power lose all compassion and feeling for our natural world. We are all part of the web of life, and we must show compassion and offer help to all creatures in a changing environment. I remember even attorneys, we don't have land use attorneys anymore in Danbury, but we do have land.
One second, while we just split the tape.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I'll be right out of the way. Attorney Marcus, we don't have any more land use attorneys we used to have, but now we have attorneys, but they're land abuse attorneys. I was at a meeting one day, and I couldn't believe what Attorney Marcus said when we were fighting against Home Depot just to save the wetlands in the back. And Mr. Marcus said they were nothing but garbage, junk, degraded, and not worth saving. Well, they were a lot to the animals that lived there. The moral life of human beings is right only as it preserves and enhances the beauty of the world. As we go into building and developing natural worlds, we must give absolute concern for the values of life in harmony with nature, the earth, and its dependent creatures. We must teach integrity and humanness in opposition to those activities by developers and their attorneys that lay bare trees and pave over wetlands and inflict unnatural suffering on living creatures. I'll be right out. I just want to make sure I don't move. Incidentally, I don't know if you noticed or not, but remember some years ago, 21 years ago, the Exxon Valdez, that terrible oil spill. Well, they found out that even to this day, that the shoreline still has pockets of spilled oil. I want to say we all here tonight owe a great deal of thanks to the News Times, who has always shown such compassion and support for Danbury's environment. In years past, they have never failed to bring attention to threats to our natural world and its creatures. Okay. Tonight, I'm not going to go into that. There's one thing I want to say. I am against progress, but there should be ethics among, I'm not against progress, but there should be ethics among developers and their land use attorneys. Ethics is reverence for life, and these people have shown time and time again they lack this. Their cruelty to the environment is unmatched. Now bulldozers advance through wilderness areas with brutal speed, smashing down hundreds of trees. Super shovels scoop hundreds of tons of earth in a single bite and devour up the poor creatures' habitats, catching animals too slow to move out of their way, like those possums, and sending others into total confusion to other already filled habitats to die of starvation. Others go into the yards of neighboring homes as nuisance wildlife to be trapped and killed. When Toll Brothers used their equipment in Bethel, a couple of years ago, a man told me how all these animals were pouring into his yard. He said it was horrible. I'm just speaking tonight for all those special lives, and I really sometimes feel a sense of hopelessness, but if one of my words saves even one little fella, then I'm going to feel really happy. As for the lives of our wild creatures and for those that stop in their migrations in Mill Plain area of Danbury, those 13 acres would be a big help to them right now because of the massive assault. There's just one more thing I want to say. Don't move. Okay. I wanted to say something very nice about Pope John Paul said something. Pope John Paul said a beautiful thing before he died. It was on World Day of Peace, and it was in 1990. And darn it, I think I left it home. I really wish I had not done that. I'm sorry, take up your time.
It's in here somewhere, I'm sure.
The kind of world, well, I don't have it, but I'm going to send it to you because I think you would all love it. He said a beautiful thing about nature. The kind of world that we will have in the future, this isn't what he said, will have in the future will depend in a very real sense on the thousands of small and large decisions to create, maintain, or to destroy. These make up our choices in each instant. Every one must be carefully considered because in the truth there are no unimportant decisions when it comes to preserving the world of nature around us. Because when we say goodbye, it is forever, not only for us, but for those poor little wild creatures. Those of us who have a deep love and compassion for our natural world often feel helpless to influence the course of events. But together we can move mountains or save even 13 acres of land in a corner of Danbury. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan.
I'm sorry, I wish I could speak.
Okay, you're fine. Just fine. Mrs. Ron, Mr. Tucker had his hand up earlier. I'm going to go to him, and then I'll just work my way across the room.
I need to take it.
Take your time. Take your time.
You heard all right? I'm awfully scared.
Ken Gucker, 898 Road, Danbury. My thoughts will not be as collected as the previous speaker, as they usually pretty much just rolls off my tongue as it comes to my head. Number of things. We all know why we're here. And this land would not be up for discussion if we didn't have a budget shortfall. And we're kind of looking at our little land piggy bank to see what we can get rid of, what we can keep, to try to balance out our fiscal responsibilities. Unfortunately, this is not the way to do it. We did this last year with the police station. It was all for the police station going away. I would have liked to have seen maybe the firehouse be saved because I felt it was an old and valuable building, and maybe we could have done something other than turn it into a bank parking lot. But again, we made that decision, and that's what we have today. We look at this 13 acres of land, and the thing that keeps popping back in my head is a number of years ago, I stood up here and I spoke against.
That was a quick.
Sure, take some.
I can take it against.
Can't afford the 45 minutes.
Without the 50-minute pitch.
I stood up here and spoke against the open space fund. And I spoke against it not because I was against open space. As many of you know, and especially people like Ben that watched me for a year or so stand up and fight for the Cotsworth property on Peyton Road, how valuable it was, that open space is a valuable thing. I spoke against it because they had thought the city wasn't ready for the financial burden that we'd be putting upon ourselves, and a few of the other stipulations. Not everything in the bond was for open space, but for other kind of projects. But it has done some good. Now, the mayor at that time stood up and said he had a goal, and I forget what the exact number is. It was like 120,000 acres, 120 acres of open space. We were going to be acquiring open space. We were going to be known as basically the open space area of the state. And now we stand here and contrary to that. We're taking 13 acres of land that is undeveloped, that was given to us due to a large condo project, and now we're looking to liquidate it. We are taking, in my opinion, we are going against the revitalization that we heard about just before this subject came up, about vitalizing downtown Danbury. Mr. Rizzo was very good at pointing out that we needed to bring people into downtown Danbury for, say, the theater. But yet this project, or this sale, is going to directly be in competition with that. We're putting a 400-seat theater in this spot along with retail sales. Downtown Danbury is littered with empty storefronts. How do we get those storefronts filled? I'm not really sure. But adding competition by selling off public property for those very places downtown is not the way to do it. We need to think beyond what's happening at this particular time. We look at the school situation. One of the largest growing areas, bless you, one of the largest growing areas of Danbury happens to be the west side. Why? That's where all the land is left. That's what's left. The rest of Danbury is challenged spots, so we say. You know, things dealing with rock, ledge, wetlands, things of that sort, which require enormous amounts of engineering to make the projects viable, hence expensive. So the cheaper alternative is to say go over to the west side. As the west side is going to increase in population, increase in buildings and families, because it is mostly residential, the schools will be even more burdened by that impact. This Tabersac brought up a good point. It is an excellent spot, need be, for a school. It is right alongside the road. It is easily accessible from multiple areas. With this area of downtown, or this area of Danbury growing at such a large pace, it would be a logical choice for a school, instead of, say, something on the other side of town, to where now children have to sit in buses for longer periods of time to get to those destinations. We need to think about that. We need to look at the growth that is happening in Danbury. You know, the real estate organization just came out, the real estate is actually turning around. It's finally starting, possibly hit the bottom. We don't know. We need to think more long-term. As far as the environmental issues, we're going to take 10 acres of land, and we're basically going to turn it into a parking lot and large building. We're going to turn those permeable surfaces into non-permeable surfaces. We're going to be removing trees that absorb up to 60 gallons of water a day. We're just going to be changing the entire dimension of this area. It's not a good idea. We need to think of more creative ways to come up with an answer to the shortfall. I'm sure I have a ton of them, but nobody listens to me, so I'll just stay with that. But we need to think beyond today. You know, we get rid of this today, what do we do tomorrow? If we decide that we need a school, where are we going to put it? Where are we going to purchase the land? Do we have the land? You know, according to the open space bonding, I believe the money, once the land is purchased under the open space bonding, it can't revert to anything else other than open space. So unless we change things there, are we going to have to go into, is there a surplus of open space that we purchased with bond money to fill in this area? I would prefer that we take a good, hard look at this, and we look at the long, hard impacts that we're going to have. Downtown is going to be suffering. We lose potential for the school, and we lose valuable land that belongs to us. I mean, last year, we had it up that we were going, or maybe a year or two ago, we had this up to where we were going to, I believe, take a $2 million up front, and we were going to lease the property for 99 years. The way it sounded in the ad hoc committee, it sounded like, well, you know, we're here discussing this in the ad hoc, and it pretty much was a done deal a couple of years ago. But we're back here discussing a different angle to it, so I guess it's okay, we'll just move forward. My understanding was that the contract and the boilerplate and the information wasn't all intact. That the mayor and the city was going to come back to this body with the final product so that we weren't shining a blank check. That never happened. Now we come back with this new project. This new project is not the same as the old project. The old project, even though we were leasing it for 99 years, was our property. The ad hoc committee was also talking about things such as we're going to have to change the zone. We have to change the zoning books to make this happen. We've had other places in Danbury where the zoning book was changed for business purposes to suit a certain or an individual. The zoning laws were never then followed up. It was done, it was changed, that was the end of the story. Doesn't mean by changing the zone that we're going to be able to keep the land the way we'd like to see it. There were talks of having a deed restriction on the property to make sure that it doesn't revert to something we don't want there. But if anybody goes down the end of Hospital Avenue, or goes over by Broadview, they can look at what DOT did to the end of that road. That was deed restricted. It was never meant to be what it is. These safety nets that were discussed in the ad hoc committee meetings have been shown in the past, but they have never been enforced, or they have never been the actual conduit they were meant to be. For when developers come into Danbury, sometimes things just happen. And they say, well, it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. Consider all these things when you're considering selling this land, and the safety things involved with making sure you get what you think you're getting. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Ms. Waller?
I'm Lynn Waller, 83 Highland Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut. I come before you tonight because I'm not sure I approve of the sale of this property. I agree with Mr. Glucker in the fact that he said that the land was originally discussed being leased, and I don't know when it turned into a sale of the property for $3.2 million. I think the land could or should be used as a school, as a possible charter school, as another magnet school. We've done beautifully with the one that we put in, and it might attract a lot more children. Possible fire station, an annex for ambulances, since they're all centrally located downtown. I'm going to hit it again, senior housing. There were promises made in the beginning at Rivington that there would be a cluster of senior housing in the center of the apartments over there, which never came to be. This is 13 acres that we own. I have asked the mayor, and he said, well, we don't have any property, so we can't build senior housing or whatever. I know they've said it's coming into the police station, but the police station is only giving us possibly 48, maybe 60 units if we're lucky. And we need a lot more than that. The study done in the year 2000, we need 1,800 units in Danbury alone, and 3,700 units in the area. And that means a lot of seniors are stuck in big houses because we have nowhere to move to. So this is 13 acres. You could have a nice little complex over there with leaving a lot of it green for Mrs. Reynolds' animals and still having some place to house the seniors. Excuse me, but this is my pet peeve. What will it cost to replace this land when we do need to build any of the above things that I've mentioned? What happened to open bidding? This was going to be leased to these people, and they've decided that they want to buy it at $3.2 million. This was not put out for open bidding. Maybe it could bring more than that to the city if you're going to go ahead with the sale. I was quite surprised to read that, oh, they changed their mind, they want to buy it now, and we're just going to go forward with that, and we did not open bid it anywhere. In the report of the ad hoc committee, it stated that no deferrals were associated with the sale of this property. I don't think we defer when we sell. We defer when someone builds. And I believe that that's when we'll come back and be asked for deferrals to this property. And I'd like you to look into that, unless they are seriously never going to ask for a deferral on what they're building, because it's obviously going to be a few million. So they're going to qualify for 7 years of deferrals if they do that. How long will it take to change the zoning ordinances or to amend the master plan as suggested in the ad hoc committee report? Can that all be done in time to meet the mayor's timetable for the 2011-2012 budget? If not, why the hurry to sell? The land without a study, meaning we haven't done any feasibility study, we haven't looked for anything else that might go in there to be worthwhile. Heck, a dog park could go over there. as to how the city will use the land for its own benefit. We have not decided what the city even needs or uses. We've just decided that somebody showed an interest, so we'll sell it to them. In one place in the report, it said the city would be the one to apply for zoning changes. Why? Why is this cost burdened by us? If someone is coming in to purchase the property, why shouldn't they make the zoning changes and pay for that step? In the motion, it said the purchaser would be obtaining zoning approval. Here. Mr. Pinner advised that the sale would be contingent on a zone change. The city would be the petitioner for the zone change. The sale is contingent upon a zone change and deed restrictions. Well, if it's contingent on that, why don't we wait until they're done before we actually sell it? And down in the motion, one of the things I really questioned was, Councilman Negershev moved that to declare the 13 acres of Old Ridgeberry Road as surplus, described as surplus, in accordance with the Planning Commission approval as received, and authorize the sale of the property to the Realty Group, subject to the purchaser obtaining zoning approval. Well, doesn't that mean he needs to pay to have the zone changed? A public hearing and posting is required by law. Well, if you're going to go through the steps that the law require there, why don't we put this out to bid? Aren't we required to bid things before we sell them? I thought we were. I may be mistaken, but I thought we were. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Waller.
I'm still pulling for senior housing. Thank you. Your 48 units is not nearly enough. It needs to start, but it's not enough. Thank you.
Any other member of the public is full?
Anybody else?
Marvin.
I've got Mrs. Mitchell, why don't you come up?
I'm Margaret Mitchell. My family are taxpayers. We own property on Main Street, Park Place. So I obviously have interest in item number 2, the downtown referral of assessments and changing of the code of ordinance and the fees. I don't plan on using any of this personally, but you need to know that, of course, I'm a downtown booster as a downtown property owner. I hope that someone my age will retire and you'll get in someone new using these tax incentives. I've waited for years for downtown Danbury to revitalize itself. That started back in '55 with the flood when I was 13 years old, and we have these spurts. Here's the '83 spurt of the historic guidelines with all the tax incentives, with all the federal programs, the deferrals. I just hope eventually we get something. 55 to 2012 that's my working years of life. I won't be here working anymore. I think that you can only expect people to go on just so long. When we talked about the sale of the 13 acres on Old Ridgeberry Road the last time, it was the 99-year lease. And I stood up here and told you how much 100 years is, how many generations in a family that covers, that my family's been in Connecticut 370 years, that I think you have to have an extremely long vision of what you're trying to do. I told you about my Narragansett relatives and them believing that you don't make a decision without looking out 7 generations into the future. And frankly, that's what I'd like you on City Council to try to do. Say, are we going to need this land back for a school? Are we going to regret buying all this land that has deed restrictions on it for open space, etc.? When I read that the pond in Rogers Park couldn't go back to a skating rink because of the federal grant we'd received to make it
nature space or whatever, I thought, oh, so we're tying ourselves in for very long periods of time. And is that going to be the long-term thing that's going to be most useful to the city? Or would it be nice, as we've had more and more kids come to live downtown, to again have kids be able to walk over and skate on a pond that frankly was this deep, so you weren't going to drown? But it was a nice feature, and we gave up that feature without looking very far into the future. I think everyone has said all the correct things to you, and you've probably said all of them to yourself before ever coming to this meeting. I do have the concern that we seem to be selling assets to make our current budgets. I don't know what else you're supposed to do, but it's a concern, and I'm sure as you think about it, it's a concern for you too, that you're going to be selling off an asset to make current expenses. It'd be nice if we weren't caught in this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Russo. Mayor Bowden, you wanted to speak?
Mark Abbott, 23 Allen Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut. Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity. I'll try to be brief. I know you've had a lot of speakers, but I'm here tonight to speak as it relates to the topic of discussion tonight, which is item 2, I believe. Item 3, which is the 13 acres at Old Bridgebury Road. I think it's important that we sort of take a step back, and I'll address some of the comments that were made by some of the residents previous to this, because there are logical and rational reasons why certain things are done the way they're done. But I want to kind of step back and just kind of give you an overview of what the history of that property was, and what the actions that this council has had, and then talk a little bit about why I think this project is important and what the impact is for the community. The first thing is that the property was donated as part of the, long story short, was when we were in the process of designing the site plan at the reserve. We were talking about building a minor league baseball stadium in the city. I don't know if many of you remember that discussion back in 2002 and 2003. And rather than have the developers at the time, WCI, build the stadium on this parcel, they said, we'll tell you what, how about if we give you, the state will give you the land, the 13 acres, and we'll give you a sum of money. And if you want to build it, you can build it. If you want to use it for something else, you can use it for something else. It's up to you guys. And that seemed like a fair deal. We came to the council blessed it, and we all moved on. After that, we did have a development plan by actually one of the speakers that was here. Mr. Rizzo came in and wanted to build an ice hockey rink there. If you remember, the Trashers had gone under, and there was discussion about, can we build a better, bigger stadium there? The council gave its blessing and said, look, you have a year to come up with a design plan. They abandoned the plan when they realized the economics of minor league hockey are really a tough way to make a few dollars. It's a very difficult process, and even by having events every couple of weeks there, whether they be conscious or whatever, it's hard to make money doing that business. And so they sort of pulled back and said, look, we're not interested in going forward. So now we had another interest that had been expressed by Mr. Foley, who's here tonight. And we came up with a development plan that represented what we thought was a mixed use of the property, which would do a couple of things. One, would place a 400-seat theater on the west side of the city, which would be an independent film theater. It's not at Lowe's, it's more in line of a Bethel Cinema in terms of the kinds of films that they run. That the city would receive in donation 5,000 square feet of flexible space within that, not within the theater, but next to the theater, that we would be able to use to market to film production companies that have come to Danbury and utilized our streets and our businesses and our buildings to do their films. And this would be for pre-production, production, post-production. If you remember, we had one film company, Private Lives of Pippa Lee, came in and they rented a building from us for 2 years. So we really wanted to be able to sort of encourage that kind of economic activity. Being so close to New York City, it seemed to make a lot of sense for us. And then obviously the rest of the development would have a restaurant pad or two. There would be some retail, but not big box retail, and potentially even some loft apartments and things like that. That proposal was blessed by this council by about an 18-3, 17-4 vote. I didn't look it up, but it's somewhere in that range, fairly overwhelmingly. After several ad hoc meetings, we went through it, and we agreed that we would lease the property, as some speakers have mentioned, for 99 years. While we were in the process of drafting the lease, we rolled into last year's budget cycle, And at that point, while we were deliberating the budget last April, I stopped the discussion of the lease with the attorneys and said, look, why don't we just sell the property for a little bit less complicated than doing the lease, and obviously we would realize more tax money because we would be able to tax the property. If we had only leased the property, we could tax the buildings but not tax the property. So economically, it made a little bit more sense for us. We then assumed that revenue in the budget for this year as a way in which to keep the mill rate down for our residents in a very difficult, trying economic time. And so that's really kind of why we're here tonight. We're moving forward with something that's already been blessed once by the council. We've already had one public hearing for the lease of the property. We thought it would be prudent to do another public hearing for the sale, because you could probably argue we didn't have to do it, but we felt it was important to be able to do it, so that there's transparency in this process. And then we felt that we would be able to move forward as expeditiously as possible with the necessary changes. A couple of just things I want to address by some of the speakers. There were people that talked about downtown. They said, well, if you do this, it'll kill downtown. If we base every development decision on what happens downtown, you might as well just shut down all building anywhere outside of the area that we delineated tonight, the downtown revitalization zone. Just stop. Go out to Marcus Dairy, shut down the shops at Market Dairy, because there's going to be a restaurant there, there's going to be a store there, there's going to be a Whole Foods out there. Go out to the mall and tell them, no more building out here, folks, you're going to kill downtown. So we don't want LL Bean, and we don't want any more stores here either, because we want you to do this downtown. Go out to other construction that's done out at Newtown Road. We have an Aldi going in there, which is a grocery store out at Berkshire Plaza. Tell them to stop too, because that might impact downtown. So at the end of the day, that's the logic we're going to use. You may never build anything anywhere in the city. The fact of the matter is, if downtown's going to be successful, it's got to do it on its own. That's why we have the Main Street Partnership. That's why we spent time doing a task force. That's why we put the economic incentives that you folks talked about tonight, and then we did the public hearing on, so that it could be set apart from the rest of the city. And I think when we're all done, I think we're going to have a much different downtown than we had before. And I think I'm very bullish on what can happen downtown, but I think it's really prudent. So I don't necessarily think that's really a good logic to say we shouldn't ever do anything anywhere else. Some people have mentioned, well, maybe we can use the site for a school. Well, sure. We've already done our statistical analysis of every possible student that's ever going to arrive in here till the year 2020. We've developed a strategic plan to be able to handle those students. We want to really be careful about building any new schools, because as you all know on the council, when you build a new school, you have to staff it. You got to have a principal, you got to have a secretary, you got to have nurses, you got to have teachers. You got to carry all of that cost on top of just building the building. So we have already decided, and the 2020 task force has already taken direction, that we would expand our current schools and reclaim Norwich Intermediate and use that as a middle school to be able to handle the numbers that we think are coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So I don't know if necessarily holding property forever is really a good reason never to sell an asset or to be able to monetize it for us. We've also heard discussion about, well, how come we have to put in for the zone change? I don't understand that. Well, folks, it's our property. We can't have somebody who doesn't own the property put in for a zone change because they don't have any standing. It doesn't work that way. And actually, it's just an amendment that they need. They don't need a complete zone change. So that's standard operating procedure. If you owned a piece of property open for development, you would be able to, you would have to get the zone change first yourself if you were the owner before you could sell it to somebody else. That's kind of how it works. It's a little bit different because typically the city doesn't sell a lot of properties, but generally that's how the process operates, and that's why we're doing it ourselves. There's been discussion a little bit about, well, and I applaud Mrs. Reynolds. I think she does a really good job, and she's a really strong advocate for wildlife in the community, and not just Danbury, but the greater Danbury area. So I appreciate her coming in and sharing her thoughts with us tonight, and she's welcome anytime to do that. But remember, folks, we looked at developing this this parcel in concert with an acquisition that we made at the same time, 200 acres across the street, the Farrington property. 200 acres, which, by the way, we spent $1.9 million for. And don't tell Mr. Foley that, because he's spending $3.2 million for 13 acres. So let's try to keep that between us. But the fact of the matter is, we understood that there would be sort of a trade-off here. We would sell some of this property that's developable, that's in the middle of really an industrial/corporate area, and then we would acquire open space literally across I-84 that people can enjoy and they can hike on and they can spend all the time to do that. So that's really kind of the thinking as to why we felt we should go forward with this. The other thing is, from an economic development standard, this is a good project for Danville. There's real jobs here. There's construction jobs while this project is being built, and then there'll be permanent full-time jobs while the project has to be staffed, to the tune of hundreds of employees, something that even in Danbury is desperately needed. I mean, folks, look, our unemployment rate's about 6.9%, which is really good compared to the rest of the state and the rest of the country. But remember, it wasn't too long ago where our unemployment rate was 3%. So we've effectively doubled the unemployment rate. So there is definitely an impact to the recession that we're feeling. We have an individual that's willing to invest a significant amount of money to grow our grant list. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're already working on the budget. Mr. St. Hilaire is sitting here for this year. We will not have a grown grant list for you to look at in April. We will probably have a negative grant list. It means we've actually lost value. So that's going to make our budgeting even tougher as we go forward. We've got some great projects going on in Danbury. We've talked about them in the past. Danbury Hospital's adding 310,000 square feet. We're excited about that because I don't mean employees. Unfortunately, Danbury Hospital doesn't pay taxes, so we don't get any tax revenue from them. We've got a great Army Reserve Center coming in, probably $20 million, $22 million building over at Lee Farm. Beautiful building. Going to pull in about 300 to 400 soldiers here every weekend. We're welcome and honored and proud to have them. I don't pay any taxes, so we get nothing from them. In fact, they don't even pay the permit fees. We have to give them to them. So at the end of the day, we've got to do some proactive steps here to grow our grant list, to be able to provide the services for our residents that we need. Now, I know you don't want to hear this, but we did have this discussion last May. And if we don't approve this sale, Mr. St. Hilaire and I are going to have to sit down and develop some kind of plan to close a $3 million gap in this year's budget. Now, you can probably figure out, and I'm not saying this to push you to do the sale. This is the last reason you should think about. This would be good for Danbury, and I think it is. But that's going to be catastrophic trying to get to July 1. I don't know where we're going to find it. The only place we have that kind of money is in staff. So we're going to have to look at staffing, and we very well could put people on the street. We don't want to do that. It's not a good thing, and it's something that would be a last resort. But I just don't see where we'd be able to find that kind of money in 4 or 5 months' time. But like I said before, really at the end of the day, this project is about jobs. It's about putting people to work. It's about illustrating that we are a pro-business environment, a pro-business community, that we are good stewards of our environment because we spent $2 million to purchase property elsewhere for us to be able to enjoy and to walk and to see nature in its most pristine state. And it's important for this community. So I'm pleased tonight to be able to come here and speak in support of this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other member of the public wish to address the council? Mr. Halpern?
Pardon me, I'm slow tonight. I have a virus. I haven't been around. I wish I had. Don't get close. A couple of points that I want to make. One is trying to compare what kind of development can occur in a suburban location as opposed to downtown. And there are typically different kinds of development. When you look at it downtown, you have small grains, small stores, small shops, that kind of development. You don't have large shopping centers. You don't have large buildings of 5,000, 10,000 square feet of retail. You simply don't find that. Danbury tried that at one time. Danbury tried that some years ago with the Danbury Mall. So what we did was, we took a development type which was suited for a suburban location, and we plunked it downtown, and it lasted about 10 years. It simply doesn't work. Don't confuse the two. There are two different kinds of environments with different needs and different client bases. Secondly, I wasn't involved in your budget discussions last year, but I was told that the $3.2 million was part of your income. Is that correct? Your revenues for this year? So it seemed to me, and in this case not as planning director, but simply as a resident, that that policy decision was made last year, that you were going to sell this land. Correct? It was made last year. Which takes us to the question of use. What would you want to see it used for? I have, I think, a pretty good record on open space in Danbury. But I will tell you just a few facts. First, the use of this property, this 13 acres for open space, is not recommended in the plan of conservation and development. The Farrington property was, which was a much more optimistic proposal back in 2002 than 13 acres. And we did that. We did purchase that. As we have in other cases where we have followed the recommendations of the plan of conservation and development, and such as the Irish Trail, for example. But it was not recommended in that plan. Nor was it recommended in the master plan for the reserve. The master plan for the reserve, though, did recommend 287 acres be set aside as open space. Now that's out of 245 acres. So a little over half of the land of the reserve is open space. What we typically see, and what makes an impression on our minds, is when we see development. We can pass acres of trees, but when we see development take place, all of a sudden it appears as though, we're becoming overdeveloped. When you look at the development pattern of Danbury, this is what you're going to find. You're going to find a band of development that extends from the New York State line to Brookfield and Bethel. Most of it is below 80. The main exception being North Street Shopping Center area. Goes down about as far south as Southern Boulevard. That's where 90% of the commercial, industrial, and multifamily development in Danbury takes place. It's also the area where most of you traverse every day. Unless you live up on Anhack or Grassy Plain or those areas, you don't see that. Or you live south of Terrywell Park. These are areas that are they're zoned either very low density, RA 80, 2-acre zoning, or even if, regardless of zoning, they're simply undeveloped. So what I've been trying to do, and I'm a comprehensive planner, which means I'm in favor of open space, I'm in favor of sustainable development. If you've heard that phrase, it's been kicked around lately. Is to try to balance the demands for economic development, of which there is a strong demand for by various sectors of this community. This is not a no-growth community. I used to work for one. This is not one. And those who want to preserve things. So you try to balance these things. How do I do that? Because I'm trying to keep an urban boundary in place. And this is where we want to concentrate our development. I don't want it to go up north. I don't want to have it go south on Route 7. And we've adopted zoning regulations that prevent that kind of thing from happening. But that doesn't get press, doesn't get your attention. Because the action is in this band development that takes place. And I would like, quite honestly, I've been working to get HEPCO to recognize the same values of urban growth boundaries, you've heard of this phrase, and apply it to the HEPCO region, because I think this is really critical. So I'm not here to argue with some of the points that were made, some of which were well made. I'm just trying to say that the situation in this particular case has its points, and I think you need to take those into account, that this 13 acres was never planned as open space.
Thank you, Ms. Elton. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on this item? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on this item? Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So
Second?
thank you. Before I take the vote on that, I just want to recognize Mr. Corey, who's here with us, and Mr. Boyce for their service on the Government Entities Commission, and just thank them for their service to the community, and let them know that we appreciate that. And it's also Mr. Langlois' birthday tomorrow, so when you catch him on the break, and I won't tell you how old he is, he confessed to me out in the hallway, but I'll keep it to myself for now. Save it for a time when I need it. I'll try your minds now on the motion to adjourn the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Folks, we're going to take a 10-minute just restroom break and just 5 or 10 minutes. We'll just try to keep it to 5. Take a restroom break. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can please get everyone's attention, we're going to go into the committee of the whole right now on items number 1 and 2. As were listed in your public hearing pamphlet for this evening's event. At this time, I'd like to open the committee of the whole, and I would like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Curran.
Here.
Haddad.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Levy.
Present.
Seabury.
Here.
Stanley. Here. Taylor.
Here.
Kola. Nagershest. Hollis. Cabo.
Present.
Sadi.
Present.
Visconti. Wetmore.
Present.
Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Shanice.
Here.
Rotello.
Here.
Skozafaga.
Here.
Tysholt. Present.
Okay, would the record reflect that there are 17 members present, 3 absent, and would the clerk please mark the absences as noted in the public hearing section of our meeting for the record, and 1 vacancy. Okay. We are going to go into the committee of the whole. Item number 1, which is the Code of Government Entities, Code of Ordinances, Section 2-176, Commission for Persons with Disabilities, number 2, the Danbury Aquifer Protection Agency, number 3, the Fair Rent Commission, number 4, the Board of Ethics, and number 5, the Charles Ives Authority for the Performing Arts. What's your pleasure, Council? Ms. Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to recommend in accordance with Code of Ordinance, Section 2-184, the reestablishment of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, the Danbury Aquifer Protection Agency, the Fair Rent Commission, Board of Ethics, and the Charles Ives Authority for the Performing Arts through June 30th, 2017, and adoption of the amended ordinance accordingly.
Second. Thank you. The motion was seconded by Mr. Rotello? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rotello. Other discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll try your lines. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. To item number 2, downtown deferral of assessments, Code of Ordinance, Section 18-25 for downtown revitalization zone. What's your pleasure, Council? Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the amendments to Sections 18-25 of the Code of Ordinances as proposed by the Director of Planning.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by, really close, Mr. Wetmore. Did you get it out there too, Mr. Visconti? Here's the Mr. Wetmore.
Lose again?
Under discussion. Under discussion, anybody have anything to discuss on item number 2? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Seeing that there's no other further business to come before us this evening, I'll entertain a motion to close the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rotello, seconded by Mrs. Tysholtz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, folks. Now we'll go into our special meeting. There will
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the special city council meeting of February 27, 2012 to order. I need to do this to you, if you could, please stand for the pledge. Fourth time tonight. And Mr. St. Hilaire, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kern, short prayer, please.
God of providence, guide us with your wisdom to undertake the business of this special meeting. Help direct our speech and actions to recognize both sides of the issues before us in order to benefit the people of our city. As we gather today, let us always be mindful of all those men and women who serve our country and defend our way of life. Keep them and their families in your loving care. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Curran.
Here.
Redhead.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Levy.
Present.
Seabury.
Here.
Stanley.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Cologne. Negashevsky. Ellis. Cabo.
Present.
Sadi.
Present.
Visconti. Wetmore. Nero.
Here.
Perkins.
Present.
Shenice.
Present.
Vitello.
Still here.
Scozzafava. Dyschel.
Present.
17 present and 3 absent. 17 present, 3 absent, 1 vacancy. And let the record reflect the following. Mr. Hallis is at a family event. Mr. Negashev is at work. And you're missing, Mr. Cole is at a family event as well. And obviously we have 1 vacancy. May we have the return of service and the notice of special review? Mr. President.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion at this time that we all have received the call to service and has been signed, our service notices have been signed and delivered by the constables for this special meeting.
Motion made and seconded by Mrs. Dyschel. All those in favor of accepting service, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. First 30 minutes of each council meeting are reserved for public speaking. And we'll, members have the public opportunity to speak at the last meeting. We, of course, will extend that offer again here. Any member of the public wish to address the council this evening? Mr. Johnson.
Ken Guthrie, 898 Mill Road. I'll be very quick. Item number 1, I would just like to know more information about the replacement for Champetta. If there is recommendation from the Republican Town Committee, but it really doesn't say much. I'd like to know a little bit more about who he is, and what he looks like, since I haven't been zoning meeting for a while, so I don't know what he looks like. Item number 2, back to my favorite subject. Just want to clarify a couple things. The reason why you're had a public hearing on this wasn't just to be forthcoming to the members of the members of the public as a foregone conclusion. It's state law. You have to have that public hearing. So stating that it's just we did this for a nice thing really isn't the case. It's a state statute, it has to be done. Number 2, I'm just clarifying a couple of things that I found a little off. Stopping development. Nobody up here is saying stopping development. I'm personally not saying stopping development. The difference is we are selling city property to put in possibly things that would conflict with downtown Danbury and the vitalization of downtown Danbury. That is the difference. When someone's saying all these or whatever comes in, they already own the property, It's theirs, they come in, they give a plan of development, or they give their plans to the planning department in Danbury, they need approval, fantastic, nobody's jumping up and down over that. It's a different issue. Lastly, the zone change. The city, I believe right now, if I've read what's coming up in front of the zoning board, if this is the correct area of the zoning board, or zoning book, I think it's 4H-2 is up for public hearing on March 13th. If that's the section that is dealing with this property, then it is coming up for public hearing, and the public will have an opportunity to speak on that. So that also is not. I'm not sure if that is dealing with this property, but I'm assuming that I saw it on the agenda, that will be dealing with this property and the zone change in order to make this sale complete. So I just wanted to clarify those two things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner. Any other members of the public? Mr. Devine?
Thank you. I would like to clarify that point number 2 and point number 3 are two separate issues, and they should not be combined as one. One deals with the one downtown, the other one deals with development outside of downtown. I don't think we can relate the two, and that's not something you should base your decision on. You should base your decision on other factors than that. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Seeing none, then we'll move on with our agenda. Madam Clerk, let's move to item 1, please.
Communication, no vacancy on city council. Dear General Council members, the Danbury Republican Town Committee unanimously voted to recommend Stephen J. Darcy, 26 Rose Lane, Unit 20, Danbury, to fill the vacancy on the city council in the second ward. Mr. Darcy is currently serving as a member of the Zoning Commission. He holds a BS in Business Management with a concentration in Financial Management. Stephen has volunteered with the American Diabetes and the Heart Association. We are confident he will make a great addition to the council. We look forward to your confirmation of him. Sincerely, Sal Shapiro, Chairperson, Republican Town Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's your pleasure, Council? Mr. Seabury.
Thank you, Your Honor. Although I'll miss Charlie Trombetta and all that he's done for this council and the city, I'd like to propose a motion to accept the Republican Town Committee's vote to recommend Stephen J. Darcy, 26 Rose Lane, number 20, as the new council person from the second ward.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mrs. Teichel. Any discussion regarding Mr. Darcy's appointment? Seeing none, then I'll try your minds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, item 2, please.
Report, sale of city property, 13 acres, Old Richbury Road.
Pleasure, Council.
Your Honor, due to the amount of public speaking and questions that were raised here tonight, I know myself I'd like to have a little more time on this item, so at this time I'd like to make a motion to table, lay on the table item number 2 until the March 6th meeting.
Second. Motion made and seconded to table item 2 to the March 6th meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Entertain a motion